सुरमन्दिरतरु मूलनिवासः शय्याभूतल मजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः। सुरमन्दिरतरु मूलनिवासः शय्याभूतल मजिनं वासः सर्वपरिग्रह भोगत्यागः कस्य सुखं न करोति विरागः। Now here this verse is trying to give a picture of a man of true dispassion. Now from verses 14 to 17, the impression we got is that renunciation is a myth. It's not possible for someone to live a life. But here he captures, don't be taken away by the words, but it's the spirit that matters. So here he says, Suramandirataru Mulanivasaha. Here is a person who's residing under a tree in a temple, sleeping on the ground, wearing deer skin, sarva parigraha bhogatyaga, renouncing all possession enjoyment. Kasya sukham nakaroti viragaha. To him will not dispassion bring happiness? Asking question. It will. A person who lives a life of dispassionate detachment, indeed you find there is a life of joy or bliss or happiness. The opposite of dispassion and what is the opposite of dispassion? Don't give the literal meaning. Rajima, what is the opposite of dispassion? And what are the consequences?
Guruji, the literal translation is passion, but passion brings about transformation in a person. Because you're passionate about a thing, it transforms you, doesn't it, Guruji?
Then he says dispassion brings happiness. In the philosophical sense, what is the opposite of dispassion? Obviously,
agitation.
How do you rationalize it? When one is passionate about something, what does it do?
Attached. It brings about attachment.
It brings about attachment. Okay. Anything else? What happens? Sheilaji says it makes you very possessive. Yes, Reddigaru, dispassion means detachment. Yes. So passionate means you are extremely attached, possessive. If you're very passionate to hold on to your views, what does it do in a, let's say if you're passionate to hold on to you in a group?
You're passionate. Yeah, when the moment we say passionate, we surrender ourselves to do that cause. So that's where we need to get detached. So dispassion from the context of the words mentioned, it could be more about detaching from that actions particularly.
Correct. So when you're passionate about something, you become a slave to it, isn't it?
Yes.
You become a slave to it. You become a victim of it. So let's say in a group, you're very passionate about your own views. And if somebody differs to your view, which is very much possible in a board meeting, you're very passionate about your own perspective. In other sense, you're very egoistic, very attached to it. What are the repercussions of it?
It's getting to the more of disappointment, arguments, dissatisfaction. The moment like somebody is not aligning with your...
It becomes like a bullfight, sir.
Absolutely. Of course. The board meeting, I can't use the word of bullfighting. So
literally, it's like you are in loggerheads. You're literally in conflict. In fact, other day, a colleague of mine, a badminton colleague of mine, he came to know what I do, and he said, So I come to know that you do a lot of this training. In fact, we have just appointed what is this head of research, and what we have got into is we have to deal with this guy who has got a very big ego, and is such an issue to deal with it, because this guy is creating a hell. Everything is in disarray. Every meeting is only trying to appease this guy, calm him down, and the way, and we have hired him. Now we have to deal with this ego. He is talented, but he has got such a big ego. Do you have anything to deal with it? How do you deal with it?
In fact, Guruji, yesterday conversation is about same thing. We allow the people, somewhere we identify the strengths and ignore the weaknesses. But definitely this example, what you're mentioning, is really destroying across, because one spoiled spot of the whole entire atmosphere will get, because one small fire, one small word spot, they use it and trying to show their ego. So definitely that's going to be a little challenging environment to deal with and thing. But regretful to note that the people have a knowledge of 30 to 40 years of experience, but when it comes to managing self, this utterly atrocious to deal with that.
Yeah, they have success, but they have not had success within. It's only outward success. Inward success, they are not humble nor approachable. You know, they are not team players. So it causes so much of damage, isn't it? It causes so much of damage and havoc. So therefore he says, in order to find peace and happiness, you must practice what is known as renouncing all possession and enjoyment. Again, renouncing all possession and enjoyment refers to renouncing the what does that word? Sarva parigraha bhoga tyagaha. Parigraha is tyagaha, renouncing possession and renouncing enjoyment. What is the theme of BHAJAGOVINDAM? Any one of you remember the two words? Yes, Arbiji, the theme of BHAJAGOVINDAM.
So it's this fascination with wealth and woman, right? Acquisition and enjoyment.
Correct.
So the whole thought is to renounce that. And again, the other part, the more important part of BHAJAGOVINDAM is seek the self, seek the self, seek the self. And so everything else pales in comparison to that.
Correct. Everything pales, everything just falls apart. So the theme is to not run behind kanchana, which is acquisition, and kamini, enjoyment. So here, a man of dispassion, having developed that vairagya towards acquisition and enjoyment. So how has he developed that acquisition? How do you arrest this unending surge for acquiring and enjoying? How does one arrest?
You change your direction, right? So instead of going out and being extrovert, you begin to turn the energy and your impulses inward and focus on that which will take you to the higher over time. But again, as we've talked about from a relative perspective, that is that purpose, because it's hard for us to imagine the self, right? The absolute. But it is to, again, slowly draw away from the world and turn introvert.
Correct. But if we are able to achieve that, we have well and truly laid the road for an inward journey, isn't it? But we are recommended what is this quality, or what is this quality to be practiced, is known as standardization. Remember, I mentioned about it passingly last week. If you're able to instill that yardstick or that principle of standardization in one's life, you're able to put a cap or lid on constantly acquiring. Now, standardization is to find out what is your minimum you need in life. And you keep reevaluating that. Let's say at this point, what is your minimum you need for your survival? What are the minimum things you need to make you feel comfortable? Try to get to that. And having got that, then you don't frustrate yourself about it. It starts with every aspect of your life. I remember Rittigaru was saying that there was a time where you used to only wear branded, isn't it? You spoke about Rado watches and branded garments and whatever. Perhaps that was a standard. That was a standardization. But there is a standard. This is the standard I would like to live. This is the benchmark I would like to maintain. If I were to hold a pen, it has to be, Rajima, how do you spell it? Mont Blanc. Correct? Have I spelled it right? I may have not got it right yet. Mont Blanc. So I will not hold an ordinary pen. It has to be only a Mont Blanc. That is my standard. If I have to wear this, do this. So if this is, but if at least there is a standard, then what happens? You arrest your mind's craving for wanting more and more and more. At least you will temporarily halt. You say, I've got this, I'm fine with it. I'll take my mind off it. Perhaps you'll guide it and direct it to something higher, something more sensible, something more meaningful in life, rather than constantly acquiring, and wanting to lead a life of Ravana. As they say, one who leads an indulgent life is life of a Ravana's comforts, they say. You should have comforts and conveniences, but not to the extent having a Ravana's comforts. So how do you get to that spirit of standardization? Is to find out what you are comfortable with. And once you are arrested that, thereafter your mind is off that. Otherwise, there is no end to this Kanchana and Kamini. There is no end to acquisition and enjoyment. And that is what is signified by the verse when he says, this man is just dwelling under a tree in a temple. He just sleeps on the ground. He wears a deer skin. No, all this is, don't take it literally. But what he says is, here's a person who lives a life of standardization. He lives a certain standard of life. He's very content with that. Now the question is, are you content with what life has provided you with? So standardization is that which gives you contentment. If you have not standardized, you will not be contented. And only if you are temporarily contented, then perhaps you can take your, what does standardization do? What is the objective of that? Hirenji, what is the objective of, you may ask yourself, why should I standardize? I've already explained, but I just want you to capture it. When you have standardized, what's the objective of that? What's the fruit of that standardization?
Is contentment, your mind is contented, what? So it reduces the desire any further.
And so what does it do?
Make your mind, I mean, mind is no longer disturbed or not agitated.
Your mind is no longer preoccupied with the chase, as they say the rat race, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not occupied with that. Your mind is available for the higher. That's important.
I have a question as well.
Yes, please.
This verse, as it is describing, somebody is sleeping in the temple or on a deer skin or whatever, but that person is a tamasic, right?
No, no. Here he is describing a person of sattva. Here's a person who is actually attained that dispassion. That's why the verse is titled as a man of true dispassion. Now, what it only conveys is this man, his life is very simple, means he is not leading a life of extravagance. He's not running behind Kanchan and Kamini. He's only simplified his life. He standardized his life. His needs are met. He is not running for more and more. There is no end to it. He understands that. That is what he's trying to convey.
Okay. Yeah.
So the important thing is your mind available for the higher? It's not being in satsangs, but it's possible that you may be here. Is your mind available? Rajima, where's your mind? Not here. That is clear. Renouncing all possessions. So we're renouncing all possession is not possession. It is renouncing your possessiveness. Time again we have said, isn't it? So what that means is we're all having possessions and we're all slaves of our possessions. We ought not to be slaves. We ought to be masters. There's a beautiful saying, if I am what I have, Harishi, could you just type it out, sir? It's a very beautiful thing. If I am what I have and what I have is lost, then who am I? If I am what I have and what I have is lost, who then am I? Harish, not Harish, not Harish Kumar. Harish, are you there? If I am what I have and what I have is lost, who then am I? What do you understand by that, Harish?
Hariom Guruji, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, can hear you loud and clear. We can't see you though.
Is it okay here now, Guruji?
Yes, can see you, yes.
It requires a very deep thought, this statement.
Have you got it right? Can you repeat it for us?
If I am what I have and what I have is lost, then who am I?
Who then am I?
Who then am I? Does it mean, Guruji, that if I am basing myself based on my possessions, and if I do not have my possessions, then what makes me without my possessions?
Correct. Correct. But if you have lost all what you have, which is your things and beings, your family and your near and dear, and the love and affection you have your business, your money, your possessions, your home, your cars, everything that you have acquired, that's very dear to you, which everyone goes about acquiring for some reason, and we all understand that nothing is permanent, so it may be gone, isn't it? The love we had received yesterday is no guarantee I receive it today, isn't it?
Correct.
So there could be reasons somebody may not like you anymore.
Yes.
We have a job, there's no guarantee I'll have a job tomorrow. You say, please tell me about it.
Yes.
So when I have lost all what I have, which is a great possibility, who then am I? If I have this dispossessive attitude, I am truly a master of my possessions. That is what they mean, renounce all possessions. It is not to literally give it away, but even if they are gone, I am truly, I have an identity because I am not defined by my possessions. I'm not defined by my external factors. I am defined by myself, and that is defined by the degree of possessiveness you have. So each one of us have to be very conscious to know what is your degree of possessiveness. How do you find out your degree of possessiveness? You know, possessions, you know, because you constantly check your stock market, constantly check your well-being, constantly check your family's welfare. All the time your attention is on them, isn't it? So the possessions we know, but how do you check the degree of possessiveness? Is there a way? So that phrase, Harish, is just trying to convey that spirit. What is your level of possessiveness?
It's based on the state of our agitation. If we are not agitated, then we are not very, when we have renounced our possessions, mentally speaking.
All right. If you are agitated
or insecure.
You're insecure, agitated. Yes, very true. Is there any other way of figuring it out? Hariji?
For example, if I come to your place and I forget my pen there, the degree of attachment depends on how many times I ring you up to chase it. If it is an ordinary pen, probably I may not even call you. But if I have left, if I am very much attached to it, I may be calling every 1 hour. Have you found out? Or I may come there itself to search. That shows the degree of attachment that I have got towards the pen. How you run after it.
Correct, correct. So it has to be measured object to object, being to being. There is no flat, no, even though there is this certain spiritual level of dispassion, but it has to be object based, isn't it? It is object because the degree of value you give to different things is different. That is important to know. In life, there's a saying, let the moment come when there is left but life. Let the moment come when there is left but life, and you will find you do not hesitate over the fate of your material possessions. Let the moment come when there is left but life. Means your life matters most. Let the moment come when there's left but life, and you will find that you do not hesitate over the fate of your material possessions. You understand, they all have a place, a position in life, but it is not all, your life doesn't depend on it. When you're precariously hanging on to something, and it's either your life or your belongings, you will let go of your belongings and hold on to life, isn't it? Now you're holding on to it as if your belongings is your life. That is being a slave of your possessions. Now, possessions, you may say, what are material things? You may, but the greater attachment is towards your near and dear. You hold on to them as if that is everything in life. Oh, yes, it is. It's certainly very dear to you. But then the cause, the attachment to the family and the pain it causes far, far greater than the pain that causes to the material losses you have. You may be detached to material things, but can anyone raise their arms and say, sir, I'm truly detached to my family? The biggest challenge is where your greatest attachment is. I'm truly detached to my family. RPG?
Yes, Guruji.
I'm asking you a question, sir. You say, yes, Guruji.
So no, I can't say that I am. I think it's better than it was. Right. So that I can sense the growth is there. So, you know, I think as you go further out from the core of the family, that detachment is greater, right, than it was before I started on this journey. But my wife, my daughter, my parents, my brother know this is such a strong pull, you know, if something were to happen to them.
And the biggest attachment is to?
Probably, you know, I think certainly the spouse and my wife and my daughter, and then ultimately your own life, right? That's the biggest. You're worried.
The biggest attachment is to oneself.
The body, mind, and intellect, right? You're just caught up.
So what we have done is we have started from the most outermost and come to the closest. So the closest is your attachment to yourself. In Vedantic studies, we have said you treat yourself no less and no more than a stranger. How do you treat yourself? No less and no more than a stranger. You don't need to be doubtful at that person. You don't have to shower your love at that person. You're just objective. You're just neutral. So you treat yourself that way. That's the biggest and ultimate challenge we'll have, is I have to keep away from my own body, from my own mind, from my own physicality, from my own emotions, my own thoughts. Understand it's a mere instrument, a mere vehicle for my own journey. Everything is a means to an end. Remember, everything in life is a means to an end. When you don't understand that it's a means to an end, one develops attachment. Wife is a means to an end. Your family is a means to an end. Your job is a means to an end. Your belongings are means to an end. Your guru is a means to an end. The shastras are a means to an end. Your birth is a means to an end. Let it serve that purpose as a means to an end. Don't get stuck in it as an end in itself. When you think your job is everything, you're stuck in that profession. When you think family is everything, you're stuck to the family. When you think wealth is everything, you're stuck to wealth. When you think guru is everything in your life, you're stuck to the guru, suffocating that person. The guru also needs some space, no? Leave him alone for a while. He also is finding difficulty to practice detachment. Too much of love also is not good. So if you treat everything as a means to an end, you will find everything has a place in your life. And you will make good use of it and move on. And if for some reason it's broken, you replace it. You don't sit and cry because your mug is broken. No, Rajima? Your tea mug is broken, you don't hold a funeral procession, funeral for the tea mug. Big deal, it's broken, it's gone, it served its purpose. The person is gone, the person has served his purpose in his life. You may hold a procession, but understand that's part and parcel of life. There is birth, there is death, there is profit, there is loss, there's good, there's bad, there's love, there's hatred. Everything is a means to an end. You don't get bogged down with that phase of life, man. Everyone comes and goes, everything comes and goes. It's just ephemeral, it's still temporal, but it has a place. But your relationship to that is means to an end. So if one is very clear, and the knowledge and the potency of this knowledge is, it plants that thought of that goal so firmly that you don't lose your track. You develop the true dispassion to everything that comes in the path of your journey. You don't lose your purpose. Your purpose is to get to the self. Isn't there a beautiful saying, men may come, men may go, I go on forever. What I develop is that attitude of detachment. If I am what I have, and what I have is lost, who then am I? Ask yourself. Am I to be defined by external factors, or am I to be defined by my identity and association with things? My identity is the association I give to the things around me. So I associate with the spirit of detachment. I am a man of true dispassion. Everything comes, believe me, everything comes for a reason. But my perspective to that is means to an end. If I receive love from you, it's a means to an end. If I don't receive love from you, it's also means to an end. Your love doesn't get me elated. Your lack of love doesn't make me dejected. I should not be affected by any of this. Concern or no concern, health or ill health, birth or death, none of it should bother me. Keep marching. It is that spirit of dispassion. And one who has the dispassion, to him, will it not bring happiness? It will. It certainly will. You doubt it, put it to practice and experience it. Challenge the truth and you will see it for yourself. What is the beauty of having this quality of vairagya? Vairagya is to have the dispassion. See, all these qualities have to be tested in areas where you're not able to experience it. And that's the benefit. You've got to inject that extra effort. It's like when an area is sore or injured, the body tries to mend it, isn't it? Anandji, as a doctor, please help me, sir. I'm lost. Let's say while I'm playing, an object hits me, a ball hits me, there's a swelling, there's an inflammation. How does the body try to repair that section, sir, that part?
It tries to heal the swelling by absorbing all the inflammation there. And if it's something is broken, you start a healing process.
So the body sends all its possible resources to mend it, isn't it?
Correct.
Because it is in need of repair. Can we borrow the same analogy? You got to use all your resources in areas where you're not able to practice this detachment, so that you rise and conquer that imperfection, so that you are able to find and inject peace and happiness where is a cause of concern and misery. Something is always bothering us, isn't it? Something is concerning us. That attachment is bothering us. Just like the body helps heal, we should use our spiritual energies, our thoughts to conquer areas which are concerning, the areas of attachment, so that we develop that dispassion, vairagya. Are we right in the analogy, sir?
Yes. I mean, you have to drum up all your resources. If you're trying to give up something that is very part of your persona, part of which is really important to you, then it's extremely difficult to do so. You have to marshal all of your resources to be capable of doing that. And I think that's what you're trying to tell us. Because if it's truly something important to you, and if you're trying to give that up, it's not going to be easy. You have to use all of your resources to probably do that.
Yeah, but in fact, it is not giving it up. It is only trying to develop an attitude for something higher. We have never said give up what you value. We're only trying to say understand the greater purpose so that you become a little dispassionate towards it. It is not the end all of life, man. Is job everything in life? It may be there, it may not be there, but why should I hold on to it as if it is everything in life? If I not get job here, I'll get job somewhere else, man. Maybe a better job is there in store for me, isn't it? I'm not saying to give up the job you have. Understand I should not be so passionate and attached to it, isn't it? So I'm only trying to explain how the dispassion brings happiness. So dispassion is not to part with it indiscriminately, sir. I hope that is not what is being conveyed. Dispassion is not to indiscriminately part or get rid of some things impulsively. You may continue to hold it and enjoy it, but it is your dispossessive attitude towards it gives it a charm or lends a certain peace and happiness to it. So it's not to get rid of it, it's just to get rid of our mental bondage to it. That's the attempt the verse is trying to convey to us. The very famous Rajima, where it is in the Arati, isn't it? Where we sing, Tera tujhko arpan kya lage mera, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Almost short of tears rolling down my eyes. You know, it is said, not to feel is one thing. To feel is one thing. To be affected by a feeling is another thing. So not to feel is to have a dry eye. To feel is to have tears in your eyes. To be affected by the feeling is to let the tears roll down the cheeks. So short of rolling down. So you feel, there has to be that feel, that bhavana has to be there. So that beautiful phrase, Kya lage mera. All right. So that is dispassion. Wonderful, Ma. Thanks for those divine reminder. We'll come back. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.